Welcome to video number 3. In this video, we are going to talk about the differences in the colonies. Now, all the 13 colonies were divided up into what we call regions. Regions are colonies that are grouped together because they have things in common or they're a lot like each other. For example, let's think about regions of the United States today. The Rio Grande Valley region is really known for lots of things. Well, let's just take food for instance. Let's say the Rio Grande Valley is known for tamales or raspas, etc. The east coast of the United States is known for its pizza and cheesecake, and the middle region of the United States is really known for its barbecue. So parts of the country are divided into regions based on something they have in common or what they're known for. Now, in the colonies, there were three main regions. We had the New England region, we had the middle region, also known as the breadbasket, and we had the southern region. All of them are grouped together because of their similarities, and mostly their similarities in how they make money. So that is what we're going to talk about today, is their differences and how they're grouped together. Now, before we talk about the 13 colonies and their three different regions, you should definitely know that they were all located near the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, this is because back then, with no cars, the best way to transport your goods and the best way to get food and resources was by and from the water. So all the colonies, when they first came over from England, needed to be located near water. Second thing to notice is that geography, which means the land around you, really decides how you will make your money. If you live in a place that is rocky, like this one, you're not going to do much farming. It doesn't make any sense. So really the geography, the land, the ground, really decides for you how you make your money. Another example. If you live in the desert, you're not going to be able to sell winter fur coats. It just doesn't make sense. Nobody's going to buy them. So the area that you live in, the land, the climate, what the weather is like, decides how you'll make your money. Also, if you live in the Antarctica, you're not going to go sell a lot of swimsuits. It just doesn't make any sense at all. So the area you live in and the geography and the climate, the weather, and the land around you determines how you'll make your money. Now, let's check out the differences between the three regions. We're going to start with the New England colonies. New England colonies are the northernmost colonies. Okay, now here's some differences. Number one, the geography. They had really rocky soil. They had tons and tons of rocks, they had lots and lots of hills, and they also had a very, very cold climate. Now, because of these two things, like we were saying earlier, your land, your geography, and the climate, the weather, it really decides for you how you make your money. And so in the New England colonies, they couldn't do really, really big scale farming. So they had to do what we call subsistent farming. This is small farms that really are just made so you can eat, and that's all, just to provide for your family food. So they couldn't really grow lots and lots of crops to sell like some of the other regions because they had rocky soil and they had really cold weather or cold climate. So what the New England colonies did have is they had lots of raw resources like timber, trees, fishing, whaling, things like this. So their economy, the way they made their money, was by logging, was by fishing, was by shipbuilding. It was all about those raw resources that they could get from the land and from the area. In the New England colonies, they were also big on governing the colonies through representative government and town meetings. This is going to be really important as we go into talking about the Revolution, because really colonies like Boston and things like that and the New England region are very, very big on getting their independence from England because they believe in governing themselves in representative government. This is the New England colonies. You need to know they didn't do much farming because of their rocky soil and their cold climate. Another very important thing about the New England colonies, and we really started studying this when we were talking about the Industrial Revolution, but the New England colonies, they're very close to waterways or rivers, and they also have lots of ports, which a port is like a place to park your boats. So a big thing with the New England colonies is they made their money through trading, and also it really created really big cities. Okay, so ports and waterways created urban areas, cities, because remember they couldn't farm, they didn't have much land for farming. So the way they made their money, trading raw resources. And that created a people group that we call merchants. A merchant is somebody who sells their goods and trades raw resources with other countries. This is the New England colonies. Secondly, we're going to talk about the middle colonies. Now, in the middle colonies, you get a good mix of both the New England region and the southern region. And this is why. Unlike the New England colonies, the middle colonies, they had some pretty rich soil. And they also had some decent-sized rivers, which was good for trading. And their weather was a little more fresh. It was a little more mild. It was like right in the middle. It wasn't too cold. It wasn't too hot. It was right in the middle. So this means that their economy was a little mixed. They could have larger farms so they could sell some of their crops. And they also did logging and fishing and some of that other stuff the New England colonies did. Now, a lot of the farming done in the middle colonies were grains, such as wheat, corn, rye, things like that. You could take these grains and you could make bread out of them, which is why the middle colonies got their nickname, the bread basket. So the middle colonies was also known as the bread basket because of the grains and the farming that they did. Also in the middle colonies, something to know, kind of their politics, they were more tolerant. And tolerant means that they were more acceptant. So they accepted people more. They didn't really have a lot of judgmentalness towards other people. So religious beliefs, they were more accepting. How you felt like the government should work, they were more accepting. How you felt about England or the colonies, they were more accepting. They were what you would call tolerant. This is the middle colonies, the breadbasket. Finally, we get to the good old southern colonies. Now, the southern colonies, the South was extremely rich soil. And they also had very good warm weather. And so their growing season was extremely long. And it made a perfect place for agriculture and what we call an agrarian lifestyle. Remember, agriculture and agrarian, they both mean the same thing. They mean farming, a farming lifestyle. So because of these geography things with the rich soil and the climate, the very warm weather, the South's economy was based in agriculture. And it was really based in plantations. They planted very large crops that became known as cash crops, such as tobacco, cotton, rice, indigo, those types of things. They made really big fields of them. They harvested lots and lots of crops. They could sell them, so they became known as cash crops. Now, sadly, because of cash crops and also what we call the plantation system, they felt the need to use slaves so that they could make money and harvest all those crops. So really the politics in the South was really made around slavery and also what we call social classes. So social classes is if you were poor, you were probably not treated as well. But if you were rich, you were treated really well. So the politics was all about keeping slavery around and making sure that you were wealthy so you were treated well. Now, we're going to talk about the plantation system a little bit more in our next video, but just as a preview, all the plantation system means, don't get freaked out about what it is, all it means is when a farmer, would produce really large amounts of crops, which would make him a lot of money. But in order to produce lots and lots of crops, that person needed cheap labor, which eventually created slave labor and the slavery issue that led to the Civil War. These are the southern colonies. You need to know in the South, because of their rich soil, because of their good growing climate, their warm weather, plantations were there, cash crops were there, slavery was there because of their geography and climate, the southern colonies. So, quickly in review, you need to know that there are 3 main regions in the 13 colonies, based on really their geography, the land, and their climate. The 3 regions are the New England region, the middle region known as the breadbasket, and the southern region. Each region made money based on their geography or the type of land they were living on. In the New England region, it was cold, so they could not make money off of farming. But in the South, it was the best thing for them, so they made all their money on farming. Where you live and the geography of the land around you is a big part of how you make your money, and was a big part that the 13 regions became very different from one another and would eventually cause sectionalism, which would eventually cause the Civil War. So, please know, and this will be potentially on your test, geography, the land around you, and your climate, the weather that you have in your area, is a big factor in how you make money, and it created tons of differences between the 13 colonies, which would eventually cause sectionalism and eventually the Civil War. Well, that does it for this video on the regional differences in the 13 colonies. You have one more video left, so go ahead and quiz out of this one, get on to the next one, and you will be done with this entire era. You have reviewed it and be done with it. So congratulations, get going on your quiz out, and see you in the next video.